2 race coming up shortly. We think, in fact, we might take time out to have a look at the top 12 drivers in this one for round 1 of the series. And on the front row of the grid, the newcomer, John Crook, car number 71, a time of 54.43. Alongside him in the Elfin is Mark McLaughlin, a time of 54.75, so they're very close. The second row of the grid, Arthur Abrahams in the Cheetah, a time of 54.90, and the luckless Peter McCrow, a time of 55.09. The third row of the grid is Neil Israel, a time of 55.16, and he shares that row with Queensland's Derek Pingle in the Corinthian Doors entry, a time of 55.50. The fourth row of the grid, Bob Power, the driver that we looked at a moment ago, 55.53, and the effervescent Peter Lana, been around forever, 56.31, a former national champion. The next row of the grid, Mark Potter, 56.33, and John Wise in his fourth drive, 56.58. And the final row is Hugh Gartley, 57.91, alongside Thomas Crozier, a time of 57.98.
Starter's flag about to be raised, and we're only seconds off the start, and they're away, and away very quickly indeed, with John Crook being beaten, I think, off the start completely by Mark McLaughlin, and they are very close indeed as they make their way up into Brambles for the first time. It's Mark McLaughlin that's got through, but Crook comes back again on the inside and will take the lead back. So Crook will lead from McLaughlin as they exit that turn, and then coming up very quickly, Peter McCrow into third.
Yeah, so it was a marvellous start from young Mark McLaughlin, but he wasn't able to maintain that pace, and Crook has gone through. The two of them now virtually side by side as they go down the back straight now for the first time, the first of 25 laps, and McLaughlin challenges under the brakes as they go down to the left-hander at Coca-Cola. McLaughlin back to the lead in car 9. John Crook in second. No, McLaughlin out in the boonies, and Crook through. Car number 71 leads once more.
It's been an exciting first quarter lap or half lap of this race, 71. John Crook coming through, and he will lead them across the line with 1 lap completed and 24 remaining. And there he goes now. A great start from number 25, Peter McCrow, and the Cheetah, who's moved up to second place now. And that's Mark McLaughlin back there in third, but he's under siege at this time by from Arthur Abrahams, who's moved up also very quickly indeed in the Cheetah.
Peter McCrow, car number 25, the man who had so much bad luck yesterday when in the second session of practice he completely blew the engine and punched a couple of holes in the side of the block that you could just about put your head in, John. It was a terrible mess.
Yes, I saw it was completely ventilated.
The new air-cooled version. There's a good scrap on behind Peter McCrow at the moment. Arthur Abrahams, you can see, we just saw him in the right-hand side of the picture. He's getting stuck into it. I don't think he got a very good start. So the order at the moment is John Crook in car 71. He's being followed by Peter McCrow. Then it's Abrahams, and then young Mark McLaughlin trying to recover some lost territory. Coming through to end lap number 2. And the top 4 drivers have started to pull well away from the rest of the field. Here's our third place driver, Arthur Abrahams. This is the car that was originally campaigned by New South Wales' Keith McClelland. Last year he finished 5th in the National Championship. We saw him, I think, at Oran Park, and I think we saw him at Calder.
The butterflies would have settled down, John, for John Crook now.
I would say so, and he's driving very, very accurate at the moment and doing it very nicely. If he keeps this up, he's got to be looking good, although Peter McCrow has been at it a long, long time and also is very consistent, and maybe he's just going to gradually get up on John Crook.
I recall looking on a profile sheet some months ago and actually seeing Peter McCrow's name against the Holden dealer team many, many moons ago. Is that correct?
It must have been many, many moons ago, because I don't recall that one.
I think it was in an old Holden Monaro at one stage back in the 60s, so he's been around.
Could have dropped the car in for service. So John Crook in the Cheetah, a man who sat on pole position for the race today, leading it by, I wouldn't say a comfortable margin at this stage. The man, of course, that he has to keep an eye out for is Peter McCrow, who started off the second row, off position number 4, and has been gaining just a little bit over the last 2 laps. And McCrow now finds himself under a little opposition here from Arthur Abrahams, who has certainly been the big mover. Is Abrahams coming up behind McCrow. They go past the start-finishing line. There's the gap, first to second and third. They're close. And here he comes.
Abrahams has a bit of a look on the inside. It's very hard to get around there, though, when you're on the inside, because it makes it extremely difficult to get out the other side of the corner.
Well, it's making things easier for John Crook at the moment, who is able to concentrate on his lines and drive precisely where I think Peter McCrow's had to drive a little defensively. and probably slowing those two up a little bit. Well, there's a move now.
Well, Abrahams has gone through on the inside to take McRoe. He will now move to second. John Crook, though, is still the race leader. There's first to second. Now, whether or not Abrahams can start to pull back the gap on John Crook, we'll only know in the next couple of laps.
Mark McLaughlin, car number 9. He ran in about 3 or 4 races last year, and on 2 occasions he had those big end bearing bolts break, which cost them a lot of money. At the time they were running the English Judd Golf engines, and they're now building their own engines in South Australia. Try and save some cost. You're looking at around about, I think, $22,000 or $23,000 to bring one of those into the country at the moment, including duty. One of the more interesting aspects about that motor vehicle is its honeycomb tub construction. As we see here, the battle for the lead, and Abrahams now has a look on the inside.
By hook or by crook, he's going to snap Crook, and he does on the inside. So he's come from nowhere, Arthur Abrahams. What a pass. He's gone through to establish the lead over John Crook. You must be thinking, what on earth he's done wrong?
Well, he put the pressure on John Crook there, and John Crook got a little bit out of shape under brakes, and he took advantage of it. So he's certainly the big mover at the moment, but he's now in the lead. We can have to look and see if he can maintain it.
Abrahams qualified 3rd quickest yesterday, but he was the fastest in this morning's warm-up. But look at Crook under brakes. Very strong under brakes. He really closed the gap then. I guess he's fairly used to rubbing elbows in the supercarts, which are a ferocious little thing to drive. The 250cc 6-speed machines, and about ½ an inch separates you from the ground. But he's going to have to call on all his talent at the moment to close up on Abrahams.
Here he comes again under brakes on Abrahams. That's where he slid last time around, and Abrahams was able to take the lead away from him. Coming up towards Bassett and the hump at Mazda is Arthur Abrahams, number 19 in the Ignis entry. And John Crook still very close, probably about 2 car lengths then back to Peter McRoe, who's running in 3rd. And of course, just wide of them, Mark McLaughlin in car number 9.
First
he has dropped really off the pace, McLaughlin.
Yes, he has. The first 3 cars, identical chassis and exactly the same engines, the VW Golf, and then that Elfin of McLaughlin's. And Crook, I think, if anything, John started to get just a little bit too desperate at the end of the straight. We saw then that he went well wide of the apex of the corner, and I think he lost some ground coming out of the corner.
Yes, that's right. He's lost it here, although there could be a difference in the gear ratios here. This car's much faster in top gear on the top end.
He's brave under brakes.
He's very brave under brakes, but you can see there the car just moving around a little bit. He's losing a little bit of ground there.
Yes, well, it appears to be fast in but slow out.
Which is not the way to do it.
That's right.
Well, while all this is happening with the first 2, Peter McRoe is still right there.
This is interesting because before one could have thought that maybe Crook was holding up Arthur Abrahams, but he's been able to come back again, Peter McRoe. Lap 10 of 25 they're working at the moment. There's your race leader. Oh, here he comes. I'll tell you what, you won't do it around the outside. It's a good move, but I think Abrahams knew exactly who was going to win coming out of there. So Arthur Abrahams continues to lead. John Crook, the pole sitter, in 2nd place. And of course, 3rd place is still being held down by Peter McRoe and the cheetah. We'll see whether or not Crook can close up again under brakes up at Coca-Cola corner. He does a little, but not like the last lap or so. A very full season for the Formula 2 Championship this year.
Yes, there's 9 rounds of the series, takes them all over Australia. It's going to keep them busy, that's for sure. There's a fair bit of money involved in keeping one of these vehicles on the road and keeping them race prepared.
Let's update the placings for you in the checkered flag Australian Formula 2 Championship. Race leader is Abraham. 2nd place held by John Crook. 3rd is Peter McRoe. Number 19, Arthur Abraham, is looking good at this stage in the checkered flag magazine Formula 2 Championship, the opening round at Symmons. Gap about the same as it was 2 circuits back, probably about a couple of seconds.
23 laps completed. We see there Derek Pingle on the right-hand side of screen as we come up onto the leader, Arthur Abrahams. Pingle from Queensland is running the car that Peter Glover used last year to win this championship. Had terrible problems yesterday with fuel starvation, and the car was missing and backfiring through both practice sessions. So he's almost lost a lap now to young Arthur Abrahams, who's done a brilliant job. Qualified third, drove through the field sensibly, and they've had an awful lot of trouble sighting him since then.
I think Arthur Abrahams has the race well in hand at this stage. Be very unlucky to lose now.
Tend to agree. Coming up to put a lap on car number 5, Derek Pingle in the Cheetah. And Arthur Abrahams, car number 19, clear of John Crook. And third place still being held down by BetaMax. So still a great initiation for John Crook. He'll be tougher as the season progresses. I think he will have learned a little from today's opening round. A little too much exuberance at the wrong time.
Ah, yes, but you have to expect that from a young guy having his first race, and it's great to see that he's got the tiger in him, and he's still up there in a very good position. I mean, who knows, he could go on to win the championship this year.
Exactly.
A long way to go yet.
Yes, a lot of racing to do. Baskerville next weekend here in Tasmania. Coming up past Bassett into the Mazda Hunt. Car number 19, Arthur Abrahams.
And the checkered flag will come out, and Abrahams will be victorious in the Checkered Flag magazine round 1 of the National Championship. A fairly large gap back to John Crook and then Peter McCrow. It's confirmation of placings on the Castrol scoreboard, and the winner, car number 19, Arthur Abrahams in the Cheetah. In second place, 71, John Crook in the similar machine, and in third place from Melbourne, car number 25, Peter McCrow.